Ladies, if you've never read the book of Esther from the Old Testament, I highly recommend it. It's an amazing story of a young Jewish girl who was removed from her home and taken to the king's palace, where she spent a year with all the other virgins, getting ready to spend just one night with the king. Now, we don't know what happened during that night, but we do know this. It was Esther who won the heart of the king. Esther chapter 2, verse 17. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. After Esther had become queen, the king promoted a man named Haman to a very powerful position. It was so powerful, in fact, that the king had actually commanded everyone to bow down to Haman. Mordecai, the man who raised Esther, refused to bow. This made Haman furious. He knew that Mordecai was a Jew, so he went to the king with a plan. Esther chapter 3, verse 8. Then Haman said to the king Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from all other peoples, and they do not keep the king's laws. Therefore, it is not fitting for the king to let them remain." So, guess what? The king believed Haman and wrote out a decree that the Jews were to be destroyed. And there was even a cash reward offered for these killings. Now you can imagine how Mordecai felt when he heard the news. In fact, all the Jews were fasting, weeping, wearing sackcloth and ashes. They were scared, and they had a right to be. So Mordecai sent word to Queen Esther to talk to the king, but there was a law that she was not to go to the king unless requested. If she went without an invitation and the king did not raise his scepter towards her, she would be killed. But when Esther sent word to Mordecai of her fears, this is the message he sent back to Esther. And we read it in Esther 4:14. "For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther was afraid because of what she was being asked to do. It could literally cause her to be put to death. But even though she was afraid, she said this, "Go gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan and fast for me. Neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise, and so I will go to the king, which is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." Esther 4:16. So she asked that all the people not eat or drink for 3 days and pray. Then she said, "If I perish, I perish." Now this is what I want us to think about. Do we have that kind of faith? Would we be willing to do something for the cause of Christ that would literally put our lives in danger? That's the level of dedication and obedience that many Christians have faced. But I must confess, I've never been put to that kind of test. Oh, I've been made fun of or left out of conversations or parties. My feelings may have been hurt, but to actually put my physical life on the line, I've never been through that kind of situation. I do believe, however, that that day may be coming soon. Ladies, may I suggest to you today that every one of us is here for such a time as this. God has put each of one of us exactly where we need to be and given us exactly what we need to have in order to complete the mission He has for our lives. prayer is critical. We should be talking to God every day, many times a day. But we must also have Esther's attitude. If I perish, I perish. Saving our physical bodies can't be the ultimate goal. Bringing the lost to Jesus, following and obeying Him has to take top priority. No, it's not easy, but it can be done. So, ladies, I encourage us all to look for that special mission God has put into our lives, regardless of how frightening or difficult it may be, and to know that you were created for such a time as this. Well, speaking of time, my time is up. Please share these videos with your female friends and never forget that God loves you and so do I.